So, if you're somebody who feels like they have an endless to-do list that never finishes, and then they take a break and they go and do something, and then they feel guilty because they haven't worked, and then you go back to the to-do list, but it seems endless, and you never get the stuff done, and you feel like you're always behind on things, but somehow you also feel like you're working all the time. I have a bit of a bone to pick because I think people just work on the wrong things, and they have no idea what they're working on or toward. And I say this because I had a conversation earlier about this with somebody who I coach a little bit. And, he was like, oh, yeah, I went out on the weekend and I didn't quite do the thing. Or sorry, I felt a little bit guilty, but at the same time, I need to rest. And just the other day, I filmed something about how basically, like, if you enjoy your life, I think you can win so much more from an ambitious, like, career and professional perspective. Okay, enjoy your life. Like, does that mean work-life balance? Doesn't mean you have to have perfect work-life balance, but it means sometimes you might do something other than work. Yeah, sure. Um, and I used to struggle with this, where I would take a break and then I'd feel like shit because I haven't done the thing that I needed to do. And so how the fuck do I make all of this work? I now look at myself and I think I fundamentally did not understand that I was doing the wrong things. And most of the time, you only have a specific number of hours that you can actually work. I define work as there's various definitions for work, but in this case, I'm talking about focused, deliberate hours of concentration, which is something that we have a limited cap on. It is not 24 hours in a day. It is not 16 and 8 of sleep. It is not 13 or 12. It's usually maybe 5 to 6, on a regular daily basis. You cannot focus. Or at least, listen, I speak in my experience, and maybe you can go read a book on it and it'll tell you otherwise. But if I go work a job serving tables, I've done catering jobs before, and I have worked 8-hour shifts or 10 hours or something. And guess what? Yeah, you can work for 8 to 10 hours in jobs like those because it is a very, it's menial labor that costs your brain nothing. And just your physical body has more energy than your brain has in terms of concentration. And I did an experiment with myself where I tracked the number of hours that I worked by using a software that basically I installed on my computer and it logged every single time that I used an application and that I changed application. And at the end of the day, I would delete the in-between slots where I was being useless or, I'm checking emails and checking DMs and checking whatever. That stuff doesn't count. That does not work. That's bullshit that I call work, that I feel like I'm working, but I'm not working. Or reading about some random thing that I saw in the news and it's tangentially related to tech, and I run a tech business, and so I can justify looking at this and call it work. That's bullshit. The amount of work that people do, which is not actual work, is huge. And so I was able to remove all of those things because this tracker told me everything that I was doing. And I watched my averages over about a month. And basically what I saw is that I could not break the 5 to 6 hour mark, even in the best of weeks. And there were some days where I maybe got 8 to 9 hours. And I was like, fuck, okay, I should make every day like that. The problem was consistently after any day like that, the next day I'd have 3 to 4 hours. And so I could very clearly see a cycle where if I over-index on one day, I will pay it in debt the next day. And even if you do 2 cycles of hyper-productive, then the day after you'll pay that back down. And at least this has been my experience. And so this is just my 2 cents on the topic. But you have a limited number of focus hours, and so it is up to you to make sure that you focus on the right things, and that is so much more important than trying to work all the time or not rest or whatever it is. And so it's if you do 4 hours of work, but it's crucial and fucking important, you can spend the rest of the day watching Netflix, and you can probably still build a really big fucking company. At least that's my thesis that I'm operating with. I work a lot, but out of joy, because I like the stuff that I do, and I think that goes a very long way. You can run circles around somebody if you fall in love with the work that you do. But crucially, there are things which you will not love doing sometimes, and you have to do them, and it's part of the process. And it is those things that you may not necessarily want to do, but that are crucial to the business, that you have to identify, because you have to make such a strong point of doing those. And I spoke to this guy earlier, and he was like, oh yeah, I went out on the weekend and I felt kind of guilty because I didn't do I didn't feel like I worked enough. It's not that you didn't work enough. It's that you didn't do the important thing that needed to be done. You know that the one action that you actually needed to do didn't get done because you procrastinated it, because it's unfamiliar, because it's hard, because of whatever reason. And so in this case, for him, it was putting out a video because he wants to make more videos on coding or whatever, and he knows that is like fundamentally it's that or servicing his clients. Those are the two things that need to happen, and he failed on one of those two things. And so the guilt that he feels is not out of a lack of work. It is because the important thing was failed. That's the thing that I think most people don't realize when you don't have to work as much as you think you do. You just have to make the right action and do a lot of the right action. Just repeat the right action as much as possible. And then, okay, I only have 4 or 5 hours of focus. Well, what can I do in the non-focused hours that I can still go a very long way? So for example, can I go out? Can I go to events? Things like that, like meetings. So in that experiment where I was tracking my number of hours worked per day, focus per day, I never include meetings. I don't feel like meetings exert a particular focus. I can be in a meeting for an hour and then work an hour after most of the time, unless it's a very, very technical meeting or something like that, which exerts a lot more focus than usual. I don't consider it really the same. But actually, to be fair, on days with a lot of meetings, I did find I also have some, I have a limited degree of focus and willpower. Like there's an experiment that shows that willpower is limited. You can look it up. I'm not going to go into it in this video, but the point is, your most precious and scarce resource is not time, it is energy. And so you have to put the energy in the right things, in the important things. And you have to figure out what is the bare minimum that needs to get done on a daily basis. And if the bare minimum is here and you're constantly hitting here, then fucking bring the bar down. Bring the bar down and actually get over it. And only then do you get to move the bar up. Because until you jump the bar every single day, just like stop complaining that you don't make the bar and bring the bar down. And if you realize that you can only do a very limited amount per day, it will make you think much more carefully about what am I actually putting my time toward, right? If I tell you that you have only 3 hours in a day to do what you need to do, you will think probably a lot more carefully about what you're going to include in that to-do list. And so if you do that and you spend time on making a very, very good to-do list that like I spend about as much time organizing my to-do list as I do clearing it. What I mean by clearing it is like I'll periodically look at things and, okay, what can I get off my plate? What can I either delegate or remove, like eliminate or post? Well, okay, I try not to postpone too many things, but like there's Eisenhower's matrix is very good for this. But he has a thing like Eisenhower's matrix. You can look it up, but it's a 4x4 grid, and half of the grid is delegate or delete or remove, whatever. It's just like figure out the things that you don't need or that you can shift to somebody else, right? So whether you have, this applies specifically in business and you as you get more people and things like that. I have I have a team of about 5 people now, and so I have the luxury to be able to delegate a fair amount. Yeah, and you may not always have that luxury, and so at the start you have to work a little bit more, you have to take care of more things, but you have to pinpoint what are the actions that need to keep being taken, and how do you make sure your attention does not get taken away from those, because that is what happens to most people, is they set some goals, they forget about the goals, and their to-do list is just going to get piled full of random shit to do, random ideas that they have, random ideas that somebody else asked them to do. Like, the amount of times I've written an idea because I thought it was brilliant. I was like, okay, I should look into this video and should see how I implement it and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to schedule this for a week from now when I have more time. And then I get to it and I click it. I'm like, this is a waste of my time. This is just fundamentally not working toward the goal that I have, or it's not the most efficient action that I have to work toward this goal. And so it can just fucking go. Like it can leave. It is not worth pursuing because I have a limited time budget that I can spend, and so I'd rather just spend that on the primary action. And guess what? Doing the same fucking thing repeatedly will make you better at the thing rather than trying 10 different things. This was Bruce Lee who said, like, I fear the man not who has practiced 10,000 kicks one time, but one kick 10,000 times. And so find your one kick and then just do that repeatedly every day, rather than changing that up. I think that, and then you slowly start to figure out, okay, like, So I figured out the thing that I need to do. Like if I can just do one thing every day, you'll get better at the thing. You'll get used to doing the thing every day. And it will be so much easier for you to hit that minimum fucking bar. And slowly you can start to raise that. And that's how you do extraordinary things by doing ordinary things for an extraordinary amount of time, right? Consistency. And so you have to make sure that you keep jumping that bar every day. A lot of people can't do that. And track your fucking tasks. This guy didn't, and like, there's no chance, I think, in hell that you're gonna be able to get something off the ground if you don't even have a to-do list like somewhere. That's, I think, basics like 101. Just do something that works for you. Don't have some fancy 10-page productivity system if it doesn't work. Like for me, it's a calendar table with a weekly view, and I just have tasks every day and I drag them across as the days go by. They don't move automatically. I want to have to drag them. It is manual by design, and I just drag and drop. And it fucking works for me. And I'm not a big fan of sharing it because I think people should do what works for them. They shouldn't do what works for somebody else. And most people try and copy some like fancy system or they use some fancy app. It's like, just use one app. Just try and remove the number of apps that you use. Reduce the complexity, and it will make your life so much easier. And when your life is easy, you can get the important stuff done. And if you keep doing the important stuff, then the important results start to come back in because you did the important primary actions. At least that's been my experience. And yeah, that's a little bit of a rant because I think a lot of people just have no idea what they're actually doing. They don't think deliberately about like what are they actually spending their very, very limited focus hours on. You don't have many, and so how are you going to allocate them? That is something that I wish I could hammer into myself 2 years ago. If I could go back in time, I would just like drill it into my fucking thick skull. That I need to think about what is the most important, like fundamental action. What is the singular bottleneck that is holding you like back? And usually it's a pretty obvious answer if you just sit and figure out what that one thing is.